Welcome to the Pit Village podcast. Thanks a lot for joining in. Today we're going to talk about paradigms. You're thinking, paradigms? What's this guy on about? What is a paradigm? And who cares? And what can knowing the answer to that question do for you in your life? As always, we're sponsored by Prospect 27, pay monthly websites. It's a website as a service, £30 a month. Get yourselves online. Now, paradigms. What is a paradigm? It's an overarching, interconnected assumption about the nature of our relationship with the world. A paradigm provides the largest framework within which research takes place on a scientific level. Now, Thomas Kuhn, in The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, describes the process and result of change in the basic assumptions within the ruling theory of science within a particular discipline. Now, science usually advances incrementally, and then what happens is one thing will get discovered that shatters a paradigm within a scientific discipline, and it comes into a state of crisis. A new paradigm is formed that gains new followers, and an intellectual battle takes place, and a scientific revolution is born. Now, some examples of this are Einstein's theory of relativity, which battled the Newtonic physics. Newtonian physics, Carl. Darwin's theory of evolution, which overrid the creationism and God. English king signing the Magna Carta, which shifted the rights from the monarchy to the people, and the mass manufacturing and assembly lines within factories that resulted in the paradigm shift within business and science and ultimately society. Now, we inevitably will go through paradigm shifts within science and within society. But the point here is, science is not the only thing that paradigms affect. Paradigms from a sociological approach are a viewpoint. They are the world view. They are the way in which you view the world. Now, people view the world in different ways. There's a couple of different ways in which people generally view the world. Now, there is a conflict paradigm, the functional paradigm, and the symbolic interactionist paradigm. Let's think about how you view the world and how that sets up your framework for how you actually see things and perceive things. Because remember, the world is about perception. It is only about your perception. And although a paradigm in science is a distinct set of concepts, of thought patterns, including theories, research methods, standards for which constitutes a legitimate contribution to the field, a paradigm from a sociological standpoint is just a world view, and there's three main ones: the conflict, functional, and symbolic interactionist. So let's take the Iraq War. The functionalists would see that as a way to maintain security and peace in the world. From a conflict standpoint, it's a power and dominance play. From the symbolic interactionist standpoint, that will be seen as the US sending a message to the Islamic extremists to say, look, we're not going to accept this, and to maintain the status quo. Society, from a conflict standpoint, will be viewed as a coercive forced process to accept the social norms. Functionalists will see it as a social contract between one another in order to maintain stability and peace. The symbolic interactionist would view society as a voluntary process, the process of socialization. We voluntarily go through that process to accept the social norms within society, and we will do so if that serves our needs and enhances our lives and situation within the society we're placed within. If we look at deviance from these social norms, that will be defined on a conflict paradigm by the fact that these social norms are created by the power elite, and therefore why is it wrong? And from the functionalist, they would see the institutions are set up to protect us, and the social constructs that we've come together and coordinated essentially between each other, just regarding what is necessary, what is offensive, what is criminal. Now, the symbolic interactionist would see the deviance from society as subjective and based upon circumstance. Society is very abstract. It's not consistent. It's based upon somebody's interpretation. If we're looking at inequality, the conflict would say this is maintained and generated to maintain power by the social elite. A functionalist would say that it's just a inevitable, inescapable symptom of a functional society in which people will inevitably be left at the bottom, because that's always going to exist as people rise up to the top. It's a very realistic point of view. Now, where does that leave us when we're talking about these things? The conflict, the functionalist, the symbolic interactionist, somebody who views the world as small groups of individuals interacting based upon the way we interpret symbols, the spoken, written and non-verbal language, and a shared understanding of the culture cultivates how we actually act with one another. So the symbolic interactionist will see the world as small groups of individuals interacting with one another. So the family is a negotiated meaning between two people from the symbolic interaction paradigm. That may be through the social resources that you can bring together to make each other's life easier. Again, religion, it's a set of symbols that identify a set of ideas that then correlate to a shared belief and accepted values which provide us meaning. According to the symbolic interactionist, whereas the functionalist would see the family as providing well-integrated people into society as we keep our families together. A conflict paradigm would see the traditional family as a trap, question the gender roles, and say that families are a continuation of the status quo because the wealthy families hoard all the wealth, and that maintains the power gap. Education, again, seen as a way to maintain the status quo. Wealthy schools provide better opportunities to wealthier people, and that enhances the division. From a conflict paradigm, as a functionalist, you would see education as an operation of stable society, which passes on the knowledge generated by decades of research and bring together people from different cultures to share ideas and come together. Religion, again, a source of social stability, morals, behavioural guidelines, but from a conflict paradigm, you would see religion as a power, somebody trying to maintain power and rule over your mind. So how do you see the world? Are you looking at things from the conflict standpoint? Are you a functionalist? Do you see the world as a set of symbols and see how culture, and believe it is subjective based on our culture? Can you see that in the world? Do you have to view the world from one of these standpoints? Do you have to have one specific paradigm? I don't think that you do. But many people do, because they look at the world ideologically. And that is a problem within itself. So what is your framework? How are you set up to view the world? And does that make you better off for it? Because if you view the world as a state of conflict and struggle, that may set you up. It may set you up right. That may make you prepared for what is to come. But if you look at the world from a functionalist standpoint, that will allow you to be pragmatic, to go out there, to build yourself a life, to see things as stable. But things aren't always stable, are they? And many things are in a state of conflict. And maybe you need to look at things from both sets of perspectives in order to get a more balanced idea of what the world is actually like. The symbolic, maybe we need to look at this to realise that we're simply apes, following the interpretation of thousands of years of cultural development that has been passed on to us and enjoying the fruits of the previous generation's labour. Maybe that's just one to throw in there to make us realise that, we are working upon a shared base of presuppositions and assumptions about the world, and that allow us to be sane in this society in which we live in. It could be a lot different, couldn't it? It could be a lot worse. Some say it could be a lot better, but I beg to differ. Now, take a practical view with this. Maybe take a practical view with this. Of course, society strips us of our freedom in exchange for a hierarchy and a framework in which to live in. It is a place of conflict between the individual and society. But it is a framework in which to live in, which is negotiated by people, small groups of people interacting with each other. And it does provide a stable place for us to maintain a life and create permanent fixtures in our life. Permanent fixtures. But are they permanent? Because society is changing. Society does change. Let's just look at the last 150 years, from the cars to the transport, the aeroplanes, mobile phones, personal computers, the internet, to social media, to the coronavirus, to the digitalization of assets, to cryptocurrency and NFTs. Now, a paradigm shift is occurring right now within AI, within blockchain. The uncertainty of the future, lockdowns. This has come through the last 100 years. We've gone through many different paradigms within the economy, within the world. The 1920s, we had the roaring 20s. The 1930s, there was the Depression. 1940s, there was a war and a post-war economy. The 1950s was a post-war recovery. The 1960s, we went from a boom to the monetary bust. The 1970s were categorised economically by stagflation, which is low growth and high inflation. 1980s, disinflation, high growth, falling inflation. That led to the 1990s, the roaring 90s, which led to the 2000s, of course, the dot-com boom, to the bursting bubble that was 2008, which has led to where we are now. And where are we now? What is going to change? What does the future hold? How does your paradigm differ from the paradigm that is coming in the future? Are you stuck in what is called paradigm paralysis? Paradigm paralysis is the inability or refusal to see beyond the current models of thinking. Are you unable to see beyond the current models of thinking and the inevitable changes that are coming to the world in the next couple of decades? And are you going to be able to alter your frame of mind and your frame of reference to ensure that you're keeping up with the changes in the world? That you're adapting your business, that you're adapting your life to react to the changes that are inevitably coming in this world? So thanks a lot for your time today. I hope this teaches something to somebody out there. We're talking about paradigms, the social paradigms, how you view the world, your world view. Do you view the world as a state of conflict? Do you view the world as a state of function? And do you simply see how the world is based upon the interpretation of the symbols and the structures around us? What is your point of reference? And where do you sit with that? How do you see things in society? And how does that set you up for success? Because ultimately you want to make your life easier. You want to make it more meaningful. And you need to search for ways in which to do that. So if altering your frame of reference is going to allow you to do that easier, then maybe it's worth doing so. So thanks a lot for your time. Again, it's a marathon march. I'm trying to put one of these out every single day. We're also running a business. It's called Prospect 27. Pay monthly websites, £30 a month. Get yourselves online. Sponsors of the Pit Village podcast. We're always looking to interview people like yourself, small business owners, People in the 20s, early 30s who have got their lives together. Even in the 40s and the 50s, if you've got your life together and you want to tell people, look. What if you've not got your life together and you want to tell people, look, this is what you should avoid? Let's have a chat. Interviews at pitvillagepodcast.co.uk. Thanks a lot for your time. We'll see you tomorrow for another one on the Marathon March.